In this episode, I got the opportunity to chat with Earl Stout, who lives in New Jersey. He's currently neck deep in the Philadelphia distance skate scene, which made for a great start to our conversation. We also talked about an upcoming event he's doing in September, which sounds really exciting. It's a 33-mile race, this paved trail system that runs around the city, and it ends in Philadelphia on some trails that some old races used to run on. So I think you guys are going to enjoy the conversation. And as always, thank you for tuning into the podcast. I'm your host, Max Frank. Enjoy the show. All right, welcome to Skating in Circles. I'm here with Earl, aka Duke Pearl, aka Social Push Philly, aka Philly Longboard Crew, a man of many names and many Instagram handles. Earl, how you doing today?
Pretty good. I would say Philadelphia longboarding. Someone else is Philly Longboard Crew.
Oh, I got that wrong. Okay.
Sorry.
Good to know. So yeah, we're here with Earl. We're going to talk about the Philadelphia skate scene and some other things. But let's get into it. So Earl, where are you right now? Obviously, I kind of just gave it away, but
I am just east of Trenton, New Jersey, capital of New Jersey, in a small little town called Groville. It's a sub kind of little town of Hamilton Township. It's a historic part of the Underground Railroad, stuff like that. Pretty historic.
very cool. I feel like not a lot of people know that New Jersey has a lot of like rich American history in it because it's like right in this epicenter of all that stuff. That's awesome. So you don't live in Philadelphia, but you're pretty close. How far from Philly?
About a half-hour drive.
Nice.
I lived in the city for about 10 years, a little over that.
Okay, when was that?
I moved out of the city the fall of 2017. I moved into the city around 2010 or 11, something like that.
All right, so this is a skateboarding podcast, and we talk about skateboarding. So I got to know, when was your first time riding a skateboard?
First time riding a skateboard, around the age of 10 or 11 with my buddy Sean Mattis, who I've known since elementary school. We grew up skating and snowboarding together, and we're still really good friends to this day. It was he's still a surfer, and he had like single kick like Nash's and McGill's and Tony Hawk decks back in the day, and that's how I got into it.
So were you were doing other stuff too, like outdoorsy things as a kid, and you just found skateboarding eventually?
I remember one of my childhood memories is like from the age of like 2, 3 to like 5. I spent my summers on the coast of Maine.
Nice.
Before the age of 8, I had already traveled up and down the eastern seaboard with my parents. Just grew up outdoors, camping, appreciating nature.
That's cool. When did you find the Philly skate scene? Like, when did that happen?
I came upon the Philly scene around 2010. I had gotten into longboarding like around 2005 with my buddy Chris Marble, who Sean Mattis, we're all good friends to this day. Chris had a single kick Gravity. He would skate it in his driveway. And then 2006, I got diagnosed with cancer. Didn't really do much for a little bit. The spring of 2009, some friends of mine from high school, one of them being Joe Hodnicki, he was doing graphics for Bustin' at the time in 2009, and Bustin' was in Hoboken, New Jersey, and they invited me to a warehouse party that night. And from there, it was just like a catalyst of connecting with people and just knowing you're in the right place at the right time. And that's kind of how I bestowed myself upon to the community.
I remember my first board I think I bought was at the Bustin' Skate Shop, and it was what was it called? Something with an S? Can't remember, but I love that board.
What year?
This was must have been either 2009 or 2010 because
was it a wedge drop deck?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's the one. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. It's the
And it was
drop in
kind of
order.
ovalish,
Oval, no.
kind of like tapered.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it might have been the strike.
Strike, yes, yes. I was going to say striker, but that didn't sound right. Cool. All right, so you've been skating for a while. Philadelphia is your sort of hub from where you learned and where you sort of got into the scene. But in addition to that, and like you talked about how you are a cancer survivor and stuff. So I want to know. I ask this question to everyone, so I got to ask it to you. What motivates you?
It's a question I thought about for a lot, like the past couple of days, because I listened to Joe's podcast. What's up, Joe? Uh, Everything, the good, the bad, the contrasts of life, um, the motivation to keep on going and like be resilient. My experience and journey with cancer is something that I wouldn't go back and trade for the world. It literally showed me things that I would have probably never seen. And saying that, what motivates me? Everything. Spirits that are no longer with us, like Noel and Brent, who we'll probably get into talking about. I really feel Noel's spirit strongly a lot with like being at big events, and just Joe could probably say the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm open to talk about it. Not to say that no one else is. I like to be transparent with it because it's a strong thing that someone's energy can carry on still to this day.
Right. Yeah. And I guess for those who may not know, right, Noel Corman was he created the Shroupers Union, right, which is this organization of skateboarders. We talked about it a little bit in the last episode. People from all over the U.S., people from all over the world, chapters, groups of people who skate and have like-minded sort of views about how to approach life and how to approach each other, how to be kind and all that. High fives and positive vibes is the main mantra there. But you have a really good story about Noel and Ladiga. And I would like you to tell that if you could, because I've heard this story from other people, but I don't know if I've ever heard it from someone who's been there. So you were actually there, right, when this happened?
So, yeah, 2012 is the only year I've done Ladiga thus far. I flew down, I drove back with Noel and Luke, and we followed the whole busting crew, which, the one person that is still very heavily involved to this day is Jeff Vine from Pantheon.
Hell yeah.
He was there as well. So we leave Ladiga. That third day it rained. We're all soaking wet. We were hungry. We wanted to just like shake off, the bolts from skating 94 miles. So Sasha Popper was like, all right, we're going to stop in South Carolina and we're going to go to like this backwoods area to get like a photo shot, like a photo op. And it was like this brick, probably like I'd say 3, maybe 4 stories. It was like the front wall and there were some sides. It was kind of dilapidated and it was like probably like a field, not really a field, kind of a meadow-ish, maybe back like 300, 400 yards. And there was another building. And so we're sitting there taking a picture with everyone in the front of this like brick facade. And Joao Morales,
Mm-hmm.
he was like perched up on this ledge, and he jumps off the ledge like 15 feet down, 12 feet down. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And he's running. He's like, the guy's got a gun. The guy's got a gun. And yet, I think it was a 9mm or a 4. I couldn't really tell. I wasn't really nervous, just because I try to keep myself super composed in stressful situations to like focus how to just get out of it.
Sure. Yeah.
So everyone kind of gathers. The guy cocks the fucking gun back, and like Noel's like, whoa. Noel kind of stepped in front of the guy to protect us all. And he's like, what are you guys doing here? We're like, we're just taking a picture. Noel just diffuses the situation, and like I think they ended up shaking hands, like because we were trespassing on private property, but then we're like, was that a fucking meth lab?
Oh,
Because the guy was kind of sketchy.
gotcha.
It was a very crazy situation.
Oh
I
man.
will never forget that day.
So I didn't realize it was after the race. For some reason I thought
Yeah,
this was like during the race or something, but this is post Ladiga. Race
post
is
race.
done. You're going out for a photo shoot somewhere, and you just stumbled upon the wrong dilapidated building.
Yeah.
Very
If
funny.
anybody knows Sasha, Sasha's crazy. So no surprise that we're in a crazy situation.
Well, what's cool about that story is you have a lot of those sort of OG names that you see come out to these events. Sasha's definitely one of them. Joao was another one I heard there.
Yep.
And obviously Jeff Vian still going strong, and various others. So that's awesome. Really cool story. Glad you made it out alive. And it's a great
Thank you.
story about Noel too, because it shows like the kind of person he was. Because like, yeah, he's like this high fives, positive vibes guy, but um, he could definitely have a conversation with someone who owns a meth lab and diffuse the situation. I think like he is that type of guy who has that
Yeah.
ability.
And he
So
can handle himself too.
yeah, exactly.
So
Um, so he was always great to be around. Love being around Noel. Rest in peace. We
Shroud
try to,
it.
yeah, Straup on. We try to keep that spirit alive. And one of the ways, right, we do that is through our distance skate communities. So we talked about Philly, how you got into the Philly scene, but let's go a little more into that. So you started. You said 2011 was when you got to Philly, right?
So around the early spring 2010, I came upon Philadelphia Longboarding Facebook page,
Gotcha.
which is still going to this day. It's not super active, but it is a hub in the community for some focal points for things. I was handed over that page like 6-7 years ago from the founder of Philadelphia Longboarding and the founder of the Broad Street Bomb, Matt Michelli. I came across the Facebook page, and he was going to Drexel at the time, around the same time your brother was at Drexel.
The
Um,
Dragons.
Matt was skating Philly, like garages, the streets. And then I helped him with the Broad Street for years. And that's just kind of how, things started in Philly from there.
Yeah. So yeah, you mentioned Drexel. My brother went to Drexel, and that's how I sort of have a relationship with Philly. I used to visit him, and we would skate a bunch. And one of the trails we skated a ton of was the Schuylkill Trail. I don't. You pronounce it.
Schuylkill River Trail.
Schuylkill River Trail. And you had a event on this trail. But before we get into that, I loved this trail. We had so much fun. We would go out, and you think Philadelphia, it's kind of this gritty city, right? Maybe a little dangerous at night, but we would go out at like, past dark, well past dark, 10 p.m., right? Just skating that trail, and it was safe. We felt safe. Maybe it wasn't safe, but we had a great time, and that's my relationship with the city is like you can skate at night and it's relatively safe. Great trails. I remember bike paths being a thing, and like so super friendly city. And the trail we just mentioned, you had an event on that trail. Do you want to talk about that now?
Yeah. So actually, the Kick for Cancer event was on the west side of the Schuylkill River.
Mm-hmm.
The SRT is actually on the east side
Okay.
of the river. So there's like the west side is Martin Luther King Drive, and there is now a paved trail that they've like improved. It's not as wide or as good quality as the SRT, but it is doable. There was another event, the Truekill, from like 2011 to 13,
That's the
maybe
one I'm thinking of.
2010. And they did it down MLK from the art museum up to East Falls and then down the SRT. Finishing on the SRT near Logan Lloyd Hall on the weekend is dangerous because there's a lot of foot traffic.
Yeah.
So when I did Kick for Cancer, when the Truekill stopped, I did Kick for Cancer 2014 to 16 for 3 years. And doing that kind of was like in partnership with a foundation I co-founded, which is now actually an event, not an organization anymore. Kick for Cancer. He went down Martin Luther King Drive to East Falls and turned around and finished kind of where you started to make it safer and a wider, trail, because it was pretty much 4 lanes of car traffic closed to traffic.
That's cool. Fun fact about that: there's a video I made about Kick for Cancer. I think it was 2015, and I remember that race and exactly what you said. The shoe kill was a pain at the finish because there's so many people. You're sprinting. It's the end of the race, so you're like trying to get around skaters to pass them, but you're also getting around like strollers and pedestrians. It's just a mad dash, and the trail's not super wide. It's wide, but it's not like wide enough for that kind of shit. So
yeah, on the weekend you got tons of people on it.
and then MLK Drive is literally a street that they close on Sundays, correct?
4 lanes.
Right. So so that event I actually loved. It was super cool to see like what happens on the weekends in Philly, but also like how we were able to skate that day was really fun. Just being kind of like uninhibited by anything. I remember seeing a lot of other people on that trail, but they weren't even in our way in the slightest, right? If anything, they helped with draft and stuff like that. So yeah, Kick for Cancer, awesome event. You did it for 3 years, right?
Yes.
14, 15, 16. If you don't mind going into why did it stop?
So 2017, July of 2017, I was going into Colorado for a long weekend. Brent, who I'd started doing volunteer work at Jefferson Hospital in 2010, got matched up with him in the buddy program, similar ages, diagnosis, interest with snowboarding. He had this idea for Car for Cancer. I helped him co-found that grassroots event into a nonprofit. That is now, the nonprofit status is Live Like Brent. Car for Cancer is just the winter festival headlining event. Brent had 2 stem cell transplants for non-Hodgkin's, allogenic, which is a donor's. He beat non-Hodgkin's twice from it, but was having complications. And he was in the hospital the weekend I went out to Colorado. And the next day after I flew out, I got a phone call from my buddy Cameron, who is a friend that lives in my area. He's in production and arts events and stuff. And he broke the bad news that Brent had passed away from complications of just long-term side effects of stuff. It was kind of sudden, but he was like, it was up and down for like a month, something like that. And, he battled as hard as he could. So that was like the middle of July 2017. And then in August, my little brother passed away unexpectedly. So it was just like, I was like really starting to think about doing Kick for Cancer again. And like around when Brent was passed, like having these complications, and like was talking to some people about it, and like people were asking, and I had also went through a breakup before that.
Oh, wow.
So it was like triple like, whammy. Just, you got to take care of yourself first before everything else.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then literally after like that, so when I found out my brother passed away, my other girlfriend at the time of that, she had just ran a 10K that morning, and we went back to my place and like took a nap because it was hot, it was humid. Woke up a few hours later to my phone having been blown up, and that's what happened.
Wow.
So I decided to take a year. I just decided to put it on the back burner for a little bit.
Yeah, take some me time for sure. Well, I mean, obviously that's tragic, right? What you just said and everything. But I think what's amazing is that you have, especially with your friend Brent and the foundation, like he's left an amazing legacy, right? And you're here to carry that on, and you have a great outlook on life, you have a great attitude, and with the Live Like Brent Foundation, I would like to know a little more about that though. So you mentioned like a buddy program. You and Brent were linked up. How does that work?
So yeah, for years after like my experience, because it's a never-ending journey. Um, it For like a year or so after my stem cell transplant from Hodgkin's, I did a lot of like nutritional diving, cleansing, and questioning why, how did this happen?
Yeah.
And, I've come to some focal point of a connection to how it started. It's not something like I focus on, it's just something that I feel could be a possibility of how it started. Um, and then from there, it was like, I'm still here. What can I do to help others? Um, so I had my stem cell transplant at Jefferson Hospital in Philadelphia. They had a volunteer program. They still do, I think, to this day, called the Buddy Program. You get matched up with people that are like-minded, similar age, diagnosis per se, and interests. And then I got linked up with Brent, I think, because I went to see him and his family Christmas Eve of 2012. So I went there Christmas Eve to meet him, and instant connection as friends. Our second or third time meeting, he mentioned this idea for Carve for Cancer, and I was like instantly like, I got your back. Like, I'm with you on this. And the first couple years, it was kind of grassroots. And then from there, like I think the third year, we established it as a nonprofit. About 3 or 4 years ago, they took the status into Live Like Brent Foundation, and Carve for Cancer is still the headlining winter festival event.
Okay, cool. What exactly happens at Carver Cancer?
We got bands, we got a rail jam, we do a bank slalom kind of like race. We got vendors. It's just like a winter festival.
That's cool.
We try to be interactive as much as possible with everyone. Like we do a live graffiti mural. Yeah, it's still growing. It's more of a regional thing. In the kind of the area where Brent grew up in northeastern Pennsylvania.
Cool. It's funny, right? You don't necessarily associate Pennsylvania with like snowboarding scene, but there you have it right there. So, like, I don't think I really thought. I guess the Appalachian Mountains go right through Pennsylvania, though, so that kind of makes sense.
Yep.
That's cool. So yeah, Carve for Cancer. If you're in the area, it still goes on every year, I assume.
First Saturday of February at Montage Mountain in Scranton, Wilkes-Barre area, where Dunder Mifflin is.
Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds like an Office reference.
Did you want to kind of clarify what Carve did and what Live Like Brent Foundation is doing?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So Carve, we raised funds for blood cancers and awareness. The money we raised went to Washington Medical University in Washington State, where the focal point was for a rare non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. The doctor that was doing that research was very keen on using his research. If it didn't work in that specific cancer, he tried it in other cancers. So the money that we put into that was utilized for other breast cancer stuff, and I forget what else, but mainly like the research he did, if it didn't work for the non-Hodgkin's that he was focusing on, it kind of worked towards breast cancer a little bit.
That's
so
awesome.
So now Live Like Brent Foundation, the money that is raised goes to, I don't know, 12 different hospitals in the mid-Atlantic. And now there's one in the Hudson Valley up in Albany, raise money for blood cancer patients for financial assistance.
I think this is a really interesting thing that people can look at, right? And see all you're doing is riding in snow. Like you're just like getting people together to get to a mountain and ride snowboards or ski, whatever, right? Like it's something people already do, but you've added this other element where it's like, why don't we just raise money for a good cause? Like, why not, right? Like, and it works. So I think the hope, right? If people hear this, they can say like, well, what can I do, right? Like, I'm already riding skateboards. Maybe they have events of their own, and like, I guess the question for you would be, how hard is it to tie in sort of like a fundraising effort into an event? Would you say?
Um, I don't know. I feel like it comes natural. Like, yeah, you get like jitters the day of an event, you know, conceptually thinking of an idea for an event, doing the pre-production. And I'm no expert or professional. I just do what feels right and what I like. And it's a never ending process of growing. And fundraising for events like that, it's you have all these different moving parts and connections you have to connect the dots, and putting fundraising into that is, you have to think creatively of different ideas. And like, I feel like that's where a lot of my energy comes to me, not from me, is ideas, and having a village to connect those dots and fill in the areas that you lack, and being able to know how to delegate things and ask people that you entrust in their integrity to be involved in the behind the scenes of production.
Yeah, it sounds like what you're describing is like it's a system, right? You are sort of curating the system. You don't have all the skills, all the tools on your own. It's about, and this is something Noel did really well, right?
Yep.
Finding the right people for the right job, and like, uh, I think that's a tough thing to do, right?
Yeah. It takes a village. Like, you can only emanate so much light and energy, where you need other people to assist and like, be that stoke that keeps the fire burning, and feed off each other's energy in a positive, non-egotistical way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Even with this show, originally I was like, I just want to do it for fun, like I'm having fun. But once I started seeing people were actually watching it, I was like, oh, like I need these people. Like they're motivating me to like make the content better, and like I've gotten great feedback and stuff like that. So like utilizing the community is a skill in itself, but it's kind of something you have to do
Yeah.
with stuff like this.
And I think you starting the podcast is like at the right time, because at least from what I'm seeing, like the distance community scene is really growing. Like, I love seeing people adventure, and like, I love all disciplines of skateboarding. Do not get me wrong. I shred hard. I'm very conservative with my energy. Seeing you do this at the right time, I feel, is like great to have another lighthouse in the
Yes.
community. So thank you, Max.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for being on the show yet again. But and that's just it, right? Like I couldn't do it without people coming on the show and being willing to talk about this stuff. You sharing your story. I think, last episode we talked a lot about Kansas City skate scene, right? And I don't think many people knew that there was a thriving distance skateboard scene in, the middle of the US, right? Kansas City, Missouri. So bringing awareness to this kind of stuff is also key, because I imagine there's people in Philadelphia who don't know you exist. You know what I mean? Or don't know like the communities exist in Philly. So we've been using the word community a lot today, and I don't think we can do that without mentioning Community Bikes and Boards, which was is that Bikes and Boards? That's what it was called.
Yep. Community Bikes and Boards.
And that ran from 2011 to 2017. You said
something like that.
You told me before.
Yep.
So that was what kind of like, was that sort of like a hub for distance, or for just longboarding in general? What was that like?
Just for the community as a whole, man. We would like we were skating a lot back then. I was living in the city. Some nights I would stay at the shop because we'd be out late skating, and I'd have to open the next day. So, and the shop was right off South Street on 4th Street. And if you know South Street, it can get a little crazy. So we always had interesting things going on. I mean, we would Tuesday or Wednesday nights, we would do rides. We would skate a couple miles, maybe, say 10 miles. We'd wait till like after 9 or 10 o'clock. Me and Michelli would skate garages, and we learned the hard way by skating them on weekends before 10 o'clock. And then we'd like end up in the back end of a car going down the garage, then pulling out. Thankfully, I've never been injured doing that. Michelli, on the other hand, has had his fair share, and some other people. Jeez. But I came up with the unofficial rule, like, hey, if we're going to do this and be kind of out of control within our control, let's kind of be a little mindful of that. Weekends are a no-go at all whatsoever. Fridays, Saturday nights, no, absolutely not. So like even Sunday nights are a little iffy, and we would do like Monday through Thursdays, but it was more like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays. We would skate the garages after like 9 or 10 o'clock at night. Mm-hmm. And some garages, they would kick you out. Like one garage that we skated all the time, we would skate for hours, like to the point where we couldn't even like walk anymore.
It's a sign of a good garage session.
Yeah, there's a bunch in Philly, man. It's up until a couple of weeks ago, we hit another one. We hit one that we used to hit with the Wednesday night Philly longboard crew. I kind of was like, hey, who wants to hit a garage? And everyone was like, me. Some people are like a little like, I don't know. So I'm trying to, with Social Push Philly, come September, Monday nights will be garage night.
Ooh.
And Friday nights might be another thing.
You heard it here first.
What's that?
I said you heard it here first. Monday nights, garage
yeah,
nights.
Like absolutely, totally. But what I'm noticing, the community is kind of growing in Philly, and it's still small. It's not as big as like New York City.
Tough to match.
What's that?
It's tough to match New York City. I feel like it's.
I'm not trying to match them.
Yeah.
They're their own beast, and I have respect for it. It's just Philly is totally different, and my concept for the platform is similar, but in a different style, as Lake would say, of Social Push NYC. Things that me and him talked about before I initiated it. And he knows kind of where I want to go with that. What I'm noticing is this younger generation that is getting into the scene doesn't really know the history of how certain things started and where it came from. I could be wrong, but it also goes into like helmets, safety.
I thought you were going to say that.
I am seeing a lot less people wear helmets, and lately I am seeing a lot more people get injured.
Yeah. All right. So we can talk about this real quick. Skating in Circles podcast is very supportive of wearing helmets, but we're also very supportive of individuals being individuals. So if you don't want to wear one, that's your call. But I wear one every time I skate. Like I'm always like, oh yeah, I can just ride down like if I'm testing a setup, like, oh, I changed my bushings, let me go pump it down the street. I put my helmet on because if there's any time I'm going to eat shit, that is the time, right? Like when you don't think it's going to happen, that's when it happens every time.
As Joe Lem from Santa Fe Skate School would say, you only need your helmet once.
Yeah, exactly. And it's only good for one hit too. So if you do fall and you crack your helmet, get a new one. It's worth it. Yeah, I don't really wear anything else typically, but I recommend it for people who feel like they need it. There's no shame in wearing wrist guards, right? But your head is something you can't really repair that easily. Sometimes not at all. Permanent damage is a thing, and you might as well prevent that as best you can. That's my take. Sounds like you have the same take. I do notice no one, or maybe a couple people, but pretty much no one in those Instagram videos. No one really has a helmet on. But again, that's your prerogative. You can do whatever you want.
So 2 weeks ago, yeah, two weeks ago, I watched within the matter of 2 days on a Thursday night. My buddy fell, dislocated his shoulder right in front of me, almost cracked his head open, and then the next night, I saw somebody else fall in front of me, dislocate their shoulder, and almost mash their head on the ground.
Did they have a helmet on?
Neither of them did.
Neither of them. There you have it.
Thankfully, my buddy Bobby just went out and bought a helmet because we're going down, I think, next weekend to the Virginia Capitol Trail to do an out and back in 2 days.
How long is that one?
51.7 miles, 56 miles to the hotel.
So that's boat. That's out is 50 miles, and then back.
One way from Richmond, Virginia to Jamestown is 51.7. From Jamestown to Williamsburg is like another few miles to the hotel.
So you're gonna do a one-way overnight and then skate back the next day? Is that the?
Yep.
Wow, that's like a mini Ladiga.
Sure.
It's like because you're gonna be over 100 miles by the end of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just did 67 Tuesday on my bike. My
you?
first day riding my bike back in 2 months.
Wow.
And I'm a little tired. I'm just not that sore, you know. I rode from Wilmington, Delaware to Philadelphia.
How far is
on
that?
the East Coast Greenway. From where I got on the trail was like just kind of northwest of Newcastle. I guess that's like Newport, like it's kind of southish part of Wilmington. From there to the art museum was just under 39 miles, something like that, in 3.5 hours.
And you're on a trail?
Yeah, some of it's the highway, but what the route I took was part of the East Coast Greenway, which goes from Maine to the Key West of Florida.
It does.
I'm in, yeah. So some of that East Coast Greenway is like on road on the highway. There's like very little shoulders in some areas. But they're trying to establish a better system and, you know, make it as safe as possible for people walking and rolling on all wheels.
Wouldn't it be amazing if they paved the entire thing from Maine to Florida? Because in Maine, our section isn't very paved. There's a lot of dirt.
Is it crushed gravel and all?
Probably, yeah. I haven't been on too much of it. I want to bike it because I just started biking because we don't have a ton of paved trails here. But
good cross training.
Yeah, exactly. Excellent cross training. The cool thing about the bike, I find, is on a skateboard, to go fast, you have to push harder and faster, right? You have to kick faster, which is great. It's fine. And like uphill, you know, more resistance. You're kind of doing the same thing. With a bike, the goal is to keep the same cadence, is my understanding. So like you're pedaling the same, you know, the pedals are turning at the same rate. You just change gears so that you make it easier or harder depending on the terrain. And I love that for cross training because you can really like work as hard as you possibly can on a bike, whereas on a skateboard, it's harder to reach like your absolute limit with your legs. Does that make sense?
Totally. It for leading up to Ladiga, like I trained, you know, not extensively, but really like made sure I could do Ladiga. Now getting back into biking again with having a bad knee and wanting to be able to still skate and do long distances on it, cycling on a hybrid gravel bike for me, like I'll still take it on the street. I'll take it on the road. I'll take it on the crushed gravel. Like I'd rather have something I can get in the woods and get out of and in of any situation that is thrown my way or I want to do. I feel skating long distances on boards is a lot easier because a bike seat can be irritating if you don't have padded shorts. You know, I've never done a century on a bike yet, but soon, very soon. Like it might even actually be this Sunday.
Ooh,
I don't know.
fun.
But I've skated like 120 miles over the course of 14 hours one day.
That's a good
Years
speed.
ago, like training for Ladiga. Yeah, I use the Schuylkill River Trail as most of my training for Ladiga.
Nice. Yeah, it's a good way to train, right? Is like loops on a trail that you know is like safe. I'm actually doing that tomorrow. I'm gonna go. We don't have a ton of trails, but we have a couple that are like 10 miles long, and I'm just gonna spin around on that for about 5 hours. And,
You're gonna do your IDSA marathon?
yeah, I need to get that done, and I need to find a good place for the 100K, which is coming up.
You should come to Philly and do that.
Yeah. Well, if it, let's see. Well, okay. So segue into the next topic. You have an event coming up in the fall, September 23rd,
24th.
24th, Sunday.
Because you guys can make it the 24th.
Yeah. So Earl's throwing this event, and he reached out to my brother and I, and we happen to be going to a wedding on the Saturday in New Jersey. So we'll both be, Will, my brother, lives in Colorado now, so he's just happens to be in the area. And Earl's like, "You coming to my event?" And we're like, "If you make it on Sunday." And lo and behold, the event's on Sunday, so we'll be there. About 33 miles, right?
Yeah, something like that.
And
I'm getting a little nervous right now with it.
yeah, well, it is what it is. It's event planning. You should be. It's a good sign.
Well, I need volunteers for at least 2 checkpoints.
Okay, I might have one volunteer for you. I can't confirm, but I might have one.
Yeah, we'll talk more. I'm just trying to dial in the sponsors, the logos, and the graphics for the event flyer.
It's a lot of work, man. Like we already kind of talked about. It takes effort, takes time, and you're the right man for the job. So thank you for putting on events. It takes individuals, everyone listening, it takes individuals who do this on their own to have more skate events. And this is something I didn't really realize years ago when I was going to a lot of skate events, that and I knew, right? It's a lot of volunteer, but I don't think I really processed it. And I'm actually trying to throw an event too. And I think I will learn a lot in that process. I helped with Ladiga, and that alone was like a lot of logistics to sort through. And I was just helping, So
yeah.
Kudos to you for putting on this event. It's called the Truekill, which is a homage to the shoe kill, I believe.
And the true part is just truly utilizing the trail system in the greater Philadelphia area, which is mostly the Schuylkill River Trail. There's the Perk Yeoman Trail, the Autobahn Loop Trail. The race is going to start on the Chester Valley Trail, which goes into the Schuylkill. That all encompasses parts of Rails to Trails, which is a national organization that I'm in contact with someone in the Mid-Atlantic area, as well as the East Coast Greenway. And the greater Philadelphia area, the tri-state area of Eastern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Northern Delaware has this other organization called the Circuit Trails, which is another organization that has to work with 3 different state governments, essentially. But Pennsylvania has a lot of construction going on. Jersey is right behind there. I'm not too familiar with Delaware yet, but I'm doing some scouting and just checking things out to see what's going on. The projection for the Circuit Trails is by 2025, they're supposed to have like the SRT, the Schuylkill River Trail, paved from Pottsville or Pottstown, I forget which is the further one out, to Philly. And it's going to be like 98.5 miles one way. But I have to do more recon because I literally just talked to other people. Last Sunday, I was up north of Phoenixville on the SRT with a couple people. They have paved a section that wasn't paved like 6 years ago. So depending on the construction and projection of them finishing all this and getting to check it out for myself first, I would really love to do a staged race from Philly to Pottstown, Pottsville, to Philly and back. Whether it's 2 or 3 days, that is something that has to just start thinking about, at least, and lightly putting little things together. The only thing that I'm hesitant on is volunteers, logistics, and the construction of everything. Because right now, a lot of the trail up there is all crushed gravel.
Right.
So
you're waiting for the pave.
We shall see.
Well, I mean, that's progress, right? Because like you said, 7 years ago, that section you mentioned wasn't paved. So moves are being made, to say the least. And it's really cool that the state or whoever's, orchestrates all this is very supportive of paving the trails. And I think it's uncommon in the U.S., right, to see like such strong support for non-automobile transportation, right? It's really common elsewhere, but that kind of trail, 98 miles from Philly to Pottsville, I don't know either. I imagine people could use that for commuting to work, or just, like anyone in those towns can then just say, I'm going to go bike into the city for the day, right? Or something like that. And just encouraging sort of like outdoors activity and just all that, I think is great. So really cool that you're taking advantage of it and putting on this event.
It is the Schuylkill River Trail and the Perkiomen in the Audubon Loop area, like up like near north of Valley Forge a little bit, is one of my favorite places to skate, like trail systems.
And so that's part of this whole trail system. It kind of like runs north almost.
Yep. Chester Valley, Audubon Loop, Schuylkill River Trail, Perkiomen are all part of the circuit trails. Near me, I have a bunch of trails coming up. New Jersey is a little behind the production of construction behind Pennsylvania of the trails.
Classic New Jersey.
But yeah, we will not get into that.
Hey, I'm from Jersey. I'm allowed to.
I know, North Jersey. It's like
oh, you're making the distinction now. Okay.
North Jersey. Yes.
Yeah, no, I know about north and south. Do you know about central? You know about the
I am in central
Jersey?
essentially, but not according to PSE and G. This is part of I forget what, because the guy I skate with is like works for PSE and G, and this is his corridor. I think north, just north, like South Hunterdon is still considered South Jersey. I forget how they demographically separate it, but there is a Central Jersey because Pork Roll is the epicenter founding area of pork roll is Trenton. Mercer County, Monmouth is Central Jersey.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah, they called it Taylor Ham where I grew up.
That's a company that makes pork roll.
Yeah, I'm aware of the Kleenex Q-tip situation going on there. Yeah. So that's cool. You're doing an event, 33 miles, Philadelphia. If you're in the area in the fall, you got to come. It's going to be fun. It's a lot of self-supported stuff, though. Make sure you can ride the distance. Make sure you're ready. If you want to support, reach out to Earl.
You can find the link to the event on socialpush.philly Instagram, and the Philadelphia longboarding page also has that event up as well.
Very cool. So we're getting close to our time here. I want to ask you, before we sort of sign off, is there anything you want to talk about here that we didn't cover? It doesn't have to be related to our topics. It can be anything that you want to get out there to the web, to the people.
I can't really think of anything off the top of my head. One is that, I've never done ultra skate. Depending on when that is, I'm really focusing on doing that this year. I would love to, just because I've always had a realistic goal with being not the smartest nor the fastest, but the most strategic with my energy and how I can serve, and I breathe, and I just know what I can do, how I can do it, and when I can do it. I with going into Ladiga in 2012, not even using like the proper equipment, like I could have done a lot faster times, not like huge increments, but enough. My pace is still, for being 42 years old and having radiation to my lungs and heart and extensive treatments, like my average pace, I'm not back to where I was because I was like laid up for the past 2 months, and I literally just started skating again, like the beginning of middle of July again.
Oh yeah, you were telling me about previous.
Dude,
Yeah.
muscle memory, man. Like I try to focus on clean, minimal ingredients. I don't eat a lot of heavy, fatty meats. Not even a lot of red meat anymore. Just being aware of what I'm putting in and how it's going out, and just knowing your baseline to sustain yourself in these long distance, skates, adventures, races, whatever it may be. Like, I feel that, if you can rely on yourself, self-sustaining without stopping at a store to get something, and knowing, like, gauging your minimum and knowing how you can exceed that with a little bit more to do more and faster. I'm a huge advocate for all of that, to know what you need to do to sustain yourself.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. You said you were 42 years old. I wouldn't have guessed that for sure. You're glowing right now. The people can't see, but I can. Yeah, you look great, man. So awesome to hear that you're, being proactive. Sounds like eating right, staying in shape, despite some of the adversities you've been facing, right? You told me about some surgery you had earlier this year. So awesome to see, man. Like, that's inspiring that you can just get right back in there and sort of. This is like almost a great answer to the earlier question of what motivates you. It seems like you're just living your life.
And that falls into the kick for cancer is now push to survive. And like, do you push to survive, but do you thrive to live from that? Like, the things I'm dealing with are long-term side effects right now of my treatments, and I'm just trying to get ahead of the curve, to be my own advocate and be an advocate for the longboard, skateboard distance community, which is what I'm doing to try to. I'm in communication with people from East Coast Greenway, Rails to Trails. I'm working on the connection to contact for circuit trails again, to get more awareness of that longboards are out on the paved trails, and just, do what feels right,
Yeah. Awareness is key, man. All you need is like, a bunch of like the younger crowd to see you, and that's all it really takes. Like newer generations, I feel like are huge because they encourage, like, if you think about it, right? Someone's kid wants to ride a skateboard, then the parent has to kind of learn how to ride the skateboard. So then you've like crossed generations at that point and really spread the word. So
I love it, man.
being out there with a helmet really helps too. I'm not trying to bash anyone who doesn't wear it, but if you wear, like, parents love that shit. They're like, oh, now I can tell my kid that's okay to do, and they'll want to wear the helmet because they saw the adult wearing the helmet, right? And
Yeah.
like, whatever, it's okay if you don't, but
I don't want to throw anybody under the bus or in front of it, especially if they're not wearing a helmet.
yeah, exactly.
I've been hit by a car before. Like, they hurt. It's not fun.
It's no joke, man. It's like a 2-ton, whatever. It's a huge, heavy thing.
It's G-forces hitting you, which is what it is.
There you go. Yeah. So you kind of answered this next question that I wanted to ask, but where will we see you? No, it's cool. Where will we see you next? Is it Ultra Skate, or I guess it's your event, right? That's the.
I will see you in September.
Yeah, you'll see me in September. That's the next big thing for you. And
well, Max, it's funny you asked that question, because I really, I've been wanting to do the Virginia Capitol Trail since like 2018, when I came across it in Virginia on my way back from Asheville. me and my girlfriend at the time stopped for food, amazing tacos. I don't even remember the place. Went to this park.
Nice.
Went to this park. She's like, hey, look at this trail. She's like, you should have brought your skateboards, like, because she skated a little too. And I was like, this place is awesome. Like, and now they've done, I think they were putting in more sections. I'm not too sure. But then seeing the push relay skate, like Andy, Paul, and Miles, and Rick, and Jack, and all them.
Hell yeah.
And I was like, dude, I'm like, I've been wanting to go down there to do the trail. And I was recently talking to the Virginia Capitol Trail Instagram person who runs it. And you might see something on their Instagram in a few weeks. Supposedly, no longboarder has done it out and back within a day or two.
Oh, shit.
So that's more motivation for me, not to like be that person, but it's like, hey, I've been wanting to do it. I'm planning to do it. I try to communicate and try to get contacts and like communicate with people to see where it can go to be like more advocacy for the boards on paved trail systems.
That's so cool.
You know, to spread the awareness. So maybe on Virginia Capitol Trail in a few weeks on their Instagram.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh man. So that's awesome. How long is that trail?
51.7 miles from Richmond to Jamestown.
Right. And because you had said that earlier, and you're gonna do it out and back in 2 days.
Yeah, I'm taking 3 days off. Depending on my other friend who's gonna go, I'll do it by myself. I know I'll go at a 9 mile an hour pace pretty much the whole time on my average, you know.
Yeah, it's a solid pace.
The thing is, don't go under the 8.5 average.
Mm-hmm. That's the Ladiga.
Like the Ladiga rule. I've used that for so long. Like my average pace is not where it is on the bike and the board, just because of recovering from a surgery and just getting back into it. But yeah, my average pace, like casually, is like 9.5 to 10.2 on a board. And when I'm in prime shape, whatever that is, the bike is like more like, I guess, 11 and a half. I'm more of the distance end. I am not a sprinter. I'm a small diesel engine.
Yeah, cool. Go the distance. I was gonna ask you that earlier because you kept saying like, oh yeah, I did this 60-mile ride, did this on my bike, and like, so it sounds like you really like the longer rides. Like,
yeah, it's meditation, man.
For you, yeah, absolutely. It really is meditative, and I think that's so funny because what distance skateboarding does for a lot of people is it gives them this, like, I'll speak for myself, gives you like something that's cool, right? Skateboarding, but it's also meditative and like takes a lot of time. There's endurance to it, right? You're like getting in shape, and it just checks a lot of boxes, right? Like for me, I can't really just sit down and meditate because I should, right? I have that issue of like not being able to sit still. So like having the board to make it so I'm not sitting still, but I can still zone out helps me a lot. That being said, I'm sure meditation, actual meditation, is very helpful. All right, one last question, and that is there any, and I know you have an answer to this, any social media you'd like to plug at the end of this episode for people to follow you on?
Socialpush.Philly Instagram, Push to Survive, organic_hogwash, Live Like Brent Foundation, or just Live Like Brent on Instagram. And I forget what my personal handle is. Wanderdust.starlust is my personal. My old personal Instagram that had like quite a bit of work into it organically got hacked last February. And I tried to recover it, and like there were pictures on there of me like skate packing through San Francisco and LA in like 2012 and 14, and just like all these rad photos of like my travels as like, you know, things I had done, you know, and I lost it. And Broad Street Bomb, I forget how Dave has the Instagram, because I no longer am the main organizer of the Broad Street Bomb. So I still help out a little bit, but Broad Street Bomb as well.
I think this is a sign that we need to do a second episode because we didn't even talk about the Broad Street Bomb.
Dude, we got through a lot of that.
Yeah, we got through a lot of what we wanted to talk about, but I think there's still more. So
there is.
You coming back?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Dude, you and your brother have been like, we don't know each other all that well, but knowing your brother back then, like, it was always this calm, cool, collected vibe of like, we're skating, we're friends. It's just a natural friendship per se.
Yeah, that's all that matters, man.
So when you do your event, who's going to do your flyer graphics, Casper?
Oh, that's a great idea. Yep, Casper. Yep.
Uh-oh, he's busy.
He lives like 30 minutes from me, so I'll go knock on his door.
Yeah. I figured I'd just like kind of like throw that out there.
Yeah. No, it's a great idea. He does such cool stuff.
Who knows, Max? Maybe I'll be up there in 5-10 years.
You gotta, yeah. I mean, even if you're here just passing through, you gotta let me know.
Oh yeah, I will. You will be the first person next to Casper that knows that I'm coming up there, along also besides my family up there.
Sick. Yeah, and that goes for anyone listening. If you're ever in Maine, it's a big state, but there's not a lot going on. So let me know if you're in the area.
Portland's a cool town. You're in Saco, right?
Kennebunk. So a little south of Saco, but yeah, I'm right as you cross the border. I'm only like 20 miles in. All right, Earl, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Like I said, people coming on the show and expressing themselves, telling their story is how this whole thing gets going. It's how I'm able to do it. So really appreciate you taking the time out of your day, and you really put a lot of prep and effort into this. So thank you so much.
Likewise, and thank you, man. It like I said before, it takes a village, and I feel that there are partnerships and friendships that are going to be established soon to help the distance community, not just for the community and events and the industry, but as trying to bring new people into it that want to be in it, just don't know how or where, and connecting the dots of paved trails.
That's all it takes is just community working together. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's it for today's episode.
Peace.